Okay, hello, welcome to my second Let's Play of Warpath Jurassic Park. Yeah, this is the next dinosaur on my list. Everything should work properly now. So we're on to it. So yeah, last time I was talking about my hacking. I just watched Korn once, did a little bit of edging, no relapse. And the effect was very bad, as you can see. Now I'm recovering. Already my energy gets higher again. I don't want this to happen again. I don't know why I did this little relapse anyway. It was completely pointless. I need to adjust my loud list. It's too loud here. I cannot hear me talking. The game is too loud. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I was in a nice streak before that. I had a high discipline. Everything was going well. And I thought, okay, nothing bad will happen if I just watch it a bit. It's a big mistake. You should never watch it. It's completely pointless. And it hit me the worst. I think it happened like this with the hacking. Because before I did this little type of relapse, I had a very high energy, very high. I was in a very disciplined state where already I got a lot of respect from people and people were paying a lot of attention to me. And I think this is the worst time to do a relapse, when you're already high. Because then your high that you had before gets transformed into the low. It's like this energy goes into something that works against you. And I think this is why this time my negative repercussion was so strong. It wouldn't be that strong if I would have relapsed while not being on such a high point. And I still feel the repercussions. I mean, I changed my passwords everywhere, but still my Rockstar Games account was hacked because the hacker had access to this information before I changed my password. I found the Trojan horse, Windows Defender found it on my laptop, so I removed it. But still, some remnant of the data is there. So now every time I turn on my laptop, first I get the window popping up 4 times in a row. I have to exit away 4 times every single time. And this is some application, I cannot find it, I'm not skilled enough. It's somewhere on my computer and it's trying to connect to the Trojan horse, but I cannot because I deleted the Trojan horse. So generally I'm safe, but it created some trouble. I have a credit card, so I had to change the virtual credit card just to be sure, just in case. Then I had to order a new physical card for €5. Always when this happens, I forget first to order a new physical card and try to pay with my old physical card, and of course it doesn't work. So when I was trying to buy Döner, it always happens at the same Döner place for some reason. I go to the East train station in the place I live. There's a nice Döner place, and always I try to pay there with my card, and then I realize, oh, it doesn't work. And then I have to tell him, oh, sorry, I have to pay with my other card and fix this one. And then always I think for a moment and then I realize, ah shit, I need a new card. But that's okay. In the past already someone tried once to retrieve huge sums of money from my credit card, but it didn't work luckily. But I feel this always happens when I'm low on energy, that someone tries to steal money from me, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. That I get into some type of scam where people scam me and then I'm in some stupid contract where I cannot go out of it. And I realize too late. And in the meantime, already money gets retrieved from my account. And then I fight against them and try to say, no, don't do that. And then they do it still one more time. Then I block them from doing it. Then they send me incasso agency and they say, you have to pay. And I'm like, but I said I don't want to. And they say, yeah, but one more time you have to. Then I pay one more time and then it's good. And it's okay. As long as they let go of me, I'm like, okay, I guess I deserve it to some degree. I lowered my defenses. It all helps me ultimately to stay on track, like I said. But it's long ago that I completely relapsed on Korn, yeah? Last time it happened, it was nearly 1.5 years ago that I had a full, very bad relapse, and I will never forget what happened back then. So I walked out of the house, and there was a green light for me on the street. So I was passing the street, but there was a motorcycle coming. And I just tried to behave as normal as possible, even though I already knew my energy is not on a high level anymore. I knew it. But I was like, okay, it's green for me, so I go. I try to be confident, even though I'm not. And the motorcycle guy, who was sent by the universe to me, he was evil. He didn't stop. He was on purpose driving quicker, and he nearly drove over me. I don't know, it got a kick for him. He probably thought, oh, this guy is not respectful. He is going and is not scared at all, even though it was green for me on the street. And so he decided to teach me a lesson and drive extra quick. And I hate him for that, because it has nothing to do with, oh, I'm not respectful. It only has to do with my energy was low, and so this guy decided to teach me a lesson. And he thinks he's probably so cool and he did a good thing, and he's a real asshole. And I hope he got into some kind of accident, because this is just not nice. This is not okay. But this taught me an important lesson, you know? This is the most severe negative repercussion I ever got on semen retention from relapse. And after that, I never released to corn again. I sometimes still watched, which is a bad idea, but I got my lesson, you know? My nervous system learned from this experience, and my nervous system now forever will stay guarded enough that this won't happen anymore. If this will happen again, I mean, I don't think it will ever, but if it would, I would completely have to stay at home and not go out of my house. And I'm sure something would still happen. Someone would come to my house, ring for no reason, or online something would happen, I'm sure. Because like this time it's much softer, because I was just edging, nothing happened when I was watching corn, and still I got hacked. Because this is what helps me to stay on track, more and more. It gets more and more important. The higher I go, the longer my journey is, the more God is giving me strong signals to stay on track. And it's very efficient. You don't need to worry that much about staying on your track, because God is helping you. The universe is helping you. The more you believe in the journey, the more you believe in semen retention, the more stuff gets sent your way to keep you on track. And it's very effective because it plays with your nervous system. You start to associate the negative repercussions with the act of watching corn and so on. And then you naturally stop doing it, because your nervous system tells you it's a bad idea. So I can be thankful, but I'm just annoyed that the repercussions of the hacking are still going on. But it's like the last remnants. I mean, I killed off the main threat, and this is just the recovery process now. And I have good ways to quickly recover my energy. I am skilled in that. I take L-arginine pills. They are boosting your drive. They are boosting your semen production, so I can quickly regain full balls. And one-time weed also helps, because if you are on the low frequency, weed pulls your frequency higher. But if you do it repeatedly, it doesn't work that same way anymore. Someone on Reddit said it in a very nice way. When you are low on energy, you're like on a frequency scale of 3, and weed is on a frequency scale of 5. So after you use it, you get onto a higher frequency. But then eventually, because of semen retention and also just in general, because you're recovering, eventually your own frequency, it gets to something like 7 or 8. And then when you again do weed, it pulls you down to the 5 again, and then it doesn't feel great anymore, even though it's exactly the same substance. This is why with drugs you have to be a bit careful. You should never overdo them. I mean, I overdid. In summer I was all the time doing it. And now it all makes sense to me. In summer, since I didn't have a girlfriend, I had very high discipline. Because I could do it easier, because my drive was lower. Because I had no, all the time, things going on that pull me back into my sexual drive. And so when in summer all the time I was getting high, even though I was doing semen retention hard mode, I just realized randomly, I would go on a walk, and some days I was super confident, and then the next day for no apparent reason my confidence was lower, my charisma was lower. It was still good, but not as good as it used to, and I was always completely clueless, like, why is this happening? And now I realize It's because I was doing weed every evening, and so it lowered my energy without me knowing. So ongoing, I plan to not all the time do the weed. I mean, I have a girlfriend, so it happens less anyway. But when she is going on some trip for a week or a month, and this happens from time to time, then I will know in the future to do better, you know. It's not so easy for me because in the evenings when I'm alone, I don't know what else to do. Weed is not only bad. It helps you stay away from other negative stuff that you could do in the evening, obviously. This is why I used it so heavily in summer. But yeah, now I know better. I will have to find something else. The problem is compared to taking weed, getting high, everything else you can do is more boring. Let's say it like it is. Watching some Netflix movie alone without girlfriend, to me it's kind of pointless, but I think yeah, I can do it if necessary. Better than nothing. Then maybe I go to sleep earlier, then I won't be so wasted the next day, so maybe it's not all bad. But I will still probably like every second day or so try weed. I'm experimenting. I try to see what works best. But I also have other ways of recovering my energy. It's not just taking those L-arginine pills. It's also Kundalini yoga. Even with Kundalini yoga, it is a bit similar to weed. If you do it once, it gives you a good effect. What Kundalini yoga is supposed to do? Oh man. It is supposed to take your energy from your lower chakras and put it upwards. Into your higher chakras. So when you do Kundalini yoga, you normally have, you have 7 chakras, and so you have 7 different kriyas. And so you do movements that are doing most of the movement in one part of the chakra, in one of the chakras. So you start with the lowest chakras, you steer up the energy there, and then you go higher. So you continue to go higher until you are reaching the crown chakra in the end, and the third eye and stuff like this. And I oftentimes really feel the effect. When I'm doing the practice, I feel my chakras, and I remember whenever I got high after doing Kundalini yoga, it was my best highs. I had much less paranoia or any negative effect. It was very positive. Because you literally, when you're high after doing Kundalini yoga, you feel how your energy is rising. Sometimes it's too intense when you're high, and this happens. And this also feels crazy, but not in a bad way. You can still handle it better because it's positive. The upward energy flow is a positive thing. Kundalini energy is like life force. But even there, I have to say, it is diminishing results as well. When you do it 2 days in a row, or even multiple times a week just, it has a bad effect again. It lowers your energy. Same goes for sex. It's also good for recovery. You have sex once after you did a mistake, after you had low discipline, and it helps push the energy higher because your sexuality is reconnecting with a positive type again, you know? It's not the negative anymore. It's a much better way of having sexuality, that to do it with a partner that you love, and to don't do it with a screen or even just by yourself without anything. Because when you do it with a partner, you get also the positive loving energy from the partner. It's an exchange. Many semen retention people are talking so negatively about sex. They call it a relapse to just have sex. I think this is a very sick mindset. That's a strong word that I'm using right now. I mean, I understand where they are coming from. But this is just the wrong mindset. What's really the problem is having sex also repeatedly. Then it also produces diminishing results. When you have your highest energy, where your charisma is very high and people give you very positive attention, and then you again have sex, yeah, it can lower your energy a bit. It never really lowers your energy a lot. You don't get like a headache afterwards or whatever. You still have benefits. That's the point. Even when it lowers your energy, you still have benefits. But yeah, I think it's better to not have the complete sex every day as well. This is also something I plan to adjust going forward to harness my energy optimally. So you see, all of these things, they push your energy up, but then when you do them repeatedly, they again lower your energy. And I try as good as possible to understand how to keep my energy the most high. And in this way, relapses even serve me to some degree. because I get to know my body better. I understand better how my energy works and what can I do to raise my energy, to recover my energy. This is something I can also use to help other people, give them recommendations how they can recover their energy. So that's very good. And in general, I am on a higher level than I was. And even though I call them soft relapses because they're not real relapses. Whenever they happen, I understand I'm still on a higher octave than other people or like me in the past, because it's all progress. It's all reasonable, it's understandable why your brain makes you relapse in the way it does. It's always a different lesson that you learn on every relapse. And it gets more and more specific. Like I won't anymore relapse like in the past, just on porn and completely and get drained, or I won't get anymore on relapse binges where you cannot stop until you lose all your energy. None of this happens anymore. And the repercussions getting more and more subtle. In the past, I would just walk out and I would meet the wrong people. Every time there would be the wrong people, they would be mean towards me for no reason. Like I was just at the wrong point, at the wrong space, in the wrong time. This is how it was in the past. They would be rude to me, I would feel like shit and be embarrassed or whatever, even though they are the assholes. Stuff like this would happen in the past. Now it's more subtle, it's happening in the digital space, I lose some money or something. But when I go out into public, still people are nice to me because I know my limits. I know the stuff that I should definitely not do to at least prevent a full relapse, to lose all my energy. I know that. And oftentimes nowadays people are still nice, and the thing that happens is someone in my surrounding will show up and they carry negative energy, but it's not really about me. I'm just a witness, and in front of me they play out some negative pattern. Previously, when I was low on energy, okay, first what happened is I ordered some food and the guy who was serving the food completely forgot me. Yeah, this was about me, but still, it's a subtle thing, and he said sorry, and then I got also a drink free. So it's not that bad, but it's annoying, yeah? And I like to be more optimal and not experience such stuff. But I think it was the same day that later there was also another guy at the bus stop, at the tram stop. And he was one of those provocative older people who will just swear for no reason and say nasty stuff, but not towards me. He was just there and talking nasty stuff. And some other guy from a group of some Arabs, he picked up on that and he was like, do you want to fight? Do you want trouble? And they were arguing and it was very tense, but nothing happened. So this is something that happened where negativity played out by other people in front of me when I was on a low energy. And recently, after the hacking happened, it was very bad. There was a guy, suddenly, when I was talking with ChatGPT while my girlfriend was around, I was talking to ChatGPT about the hacking because I needed to figure out some stuff. And suddenly this guy showed up and he was drunk and psychotic somehow, and he was saying that people stole stuff from him. You see, this is really related to the hacking. I got hacked, money got stolen, and he also was suddenly talking about someone stole something from him, but he was literally shouting and there was no one. This guy was crazy. And it was bothering me, you know? It pulled down my own energy to just be around him. But I think it's because there was still some magnetism in me, in my energetical body, that this guy came into my reality. And then I felt like I was processing for him his negative emotions, because I felt them afterwards for a while and I just needed to process them for myself. So in this case, I feel like I'm a healer. Sometimes people show up and I feel like I'm healing their stuff for them. Isn't this funny? Now I do flawless, and before that he was all the time killing me. Yeah, I feel like I'm healing stuff for other people, but I don't like healing stuff for the very lowest of the low. I would like them to stay away from me, but this is just a payoff. You relapse, then God is like, okay, you are actually a high energetical person, you relapse, now deal with the consequences, here's your payoff. You have to help heal this guy and process stuff for him. In my opinion, it all works, because all is one, all is related. So it is normal that when you process stuff for the collective, you can do that. The collective will have a effect of what you do, even though it's not obvious, but it still happens behind the curtain. You have to understand quantum physics and so on, they literally agree that space and time are just illusions. So when people in the Buddhist religion or wherever, they say, hey, all is one, we are all God or like part of God, everyone is just a drop in the ocean, and the ocean is God and the universe. It is literally true, because time and space are illusions. Time is nothing more but the fourth dimension, and we have 12 dimensions. So 3D, third dimension, is where we are all living. Fourth dimension is time and the astral realm, where you have all of these entities that can attack you when you are having nightmares or something. This happened to me in the past as well. I can talk a lot about that. And then there's the fifth dimension. This is where the Earth is supposed to go. Let's see if it's true. People are saying 2032 is supposed to be the golden age. I mean, we see now a lot of negativity coming up, especially since the lockdown in 2020. So it's possible that this has to come up because the world is processing it. Before that, everything was much more chill and peaceful, and now everything seems completely crazy. All of these ideologies pop up and people are losing their minds. And I cannot understand a lot of the stuff people deal with, those ideologies. I understand so easily how retarded many of the beliefs are. Feminism, extreme feminism, that they are like, guys are not good, girls are better. It's so obvious that this is ridiculous, but people believe in it. And honestly, it's because many people have unresolved issues that they run around with. They have some sort of micro trauma or even huge trauma in some cases. And the logic is always just a reflection of your emotional state. So logic is never truly logical unless you are completely healed. Then you can access the most highest logic. But most people have some sort of trauma, and this makes them have certain beliefs that relieve these trauma. So if there are like very feminist women, it's oftentimes because they were betrayed by a guy, or maybe their father, they have issues with their father, stuff like this. I mean, there's stuff like even worse, you know what I mean, abuse of certain types. So it's reasonable why people process this stuff and why such ideologies occur. But you should be very careful with such ideologies, especially because you never know what is the origin. It's totally possible that the CIA pushed the feminism narrative to weaken society. It cannot be beneficial. You have to understand, men and women, yin and yang, this is a very universal energy. And if those are not in harmony, then there's a lot of problem. And so if on the world stage it is pushed that one gender is above the other, or it's always just said this gender, the male gender, is the problem, is toxic, no matter what they do, it's wrong, women are pure, always good, this cannot have a positive effect. It should be very obvious. And if people don't understand this just shows me how limited most humans are. Like, even though I have my own trauma like every other person, I still am reasonable enough to see what is not right. And many people just don't care. And this is just one aspect, of course. There are many ideologies, but this, in my opinion, is the most prevalent. That is pushed on people together with the whole gender identity situation. And this plays in the same... This goes into the same aspect, you know? Also, the gender identity that you... I don't know, you destroy the whole yin and yang situation. You say gender is illusion, everyone can be whoever they want. First of all, it destroys this polarity because some people, they get so crazy and they believe they are another gender even though it's not true. For some people, I agree, it might be totally true. I respect that. But I think in some cases, some people just, they get into trauma and then they start to assume they have a different type of sexuality than they actually have. Or they start to think they are a different gender, and this is very, very screwing with their mind. And this is a sick society where this is always encouraged, never questioned. When you question this, you are considered a bad person, and this is propaganda. And this makes the society weaker. Yeah, when it comes to feminism, it's interesting how only always it is important that the women get the equal rights, but when it comes to men, for example, child custody, then no one talks about it. It's not a big issue. This is very, very unfair, and this just shows me the state of consciousness of society. That society is okay with letting this happen. Shit. But then with the whole gender identity thing, there's also another problem. People are too much identifying with their physical body. They're like, oh, I am this, I am that. What they really should focus on is their soul, their consciousness, the deeper layers, and not all the time being so focused on the physical aspect, on the outer aspect. But this is so important nowadays. Yeah, for a time it was very bad. When you could go into jail in America, as far as I know, if you misgendered someone, I mean, what the fuck, come on. But I think it might all get better. Maybe this all needs to come up, and then the collective trauma gets processed at some point. I mean, we have something we never had before. We have the internet, and this means that there's a discussion. There's always a discussion, even though governments are trying to censor and big tech are trying to censor certain stuff. You cannot say everything, even though it shouldn't be such big of a problem. In Reddit, for example, I don't know, sometimes you get censored if you say nofap. I experience such stuff, you know? And then they shadow delete your comment and you don't even know. So they are using censorship as a warfare technique to weaken society where it's not necessary. On YouTube, they deleted the display of dislikes, so you cannot see the real opinion of the people on a certain topic. You only see who likes it, and this makes the perception of the bubble stronger. Everyone lives in his own internet bubble, and they think this is how reality is, but it's all just bubbles. And big tech is pushing this, and even though it's obvious how bad this is for our society, nothing is doing anything against it. Instead, it gets just more and more pushed. It's on purpose. Everyone is supposed to stay in his own bubble. It's supposed to be no discussion. That everyone is delusional and cannot see the other perspective and won't understand the other person. And this leads, of course, to separation. It shouldn't be like that. But they cannot fully fight it. The internet still creates strong opportunities for people to talk to each other. That's the good part. Because those bubbles, they start interacting with each other. There's the feminist bubble, then there's the manosphere bubble, for example, and they react to each other's videos and criticize them. So there's some dialogue happening. And I see this as a very positive trend. And if this trend continues, I think sooner or later, all of the energies get again balanced. So I think the elites are losing, even though they try everything to mind control the mass population and separate us into different bubbles, and they're losing. And look how much stuff is revealed, the Epstein files. I assume there are people in the background who on purpose didn't black out all the stuff in the PDFs. They didn't censor it in a way that it's not recoverable, and this is why information is getting out. I think there are some people who have still dignity and they fight from within the system, and this is like a whistleblower type, and this is why still we get new information and all the darkness gets slowly revealed. You have to understand this thing went on for decades, just as many other things. You never know how many dark stuff is happening in the background when it comes to wars, why wars happen. In many cases, it seems that the elites of different countries, even though they have wars with each other, in reality they still talk to each other, and it's to their both benefits what happens. They all benefit from it. They can produce more weapons, the weapon industry is benefiting, they get more money, they exploit different countries. It's all connected. Then you have those super powerful people like from the Epstein files, and they're doing very disgusting stuff. And for many years this was going on. Also in Hollywood. Yeah, and because of the internet, they cannot hide it that well anymore. If there's a Hollywood star and suddenly during a live act, the person is just freezing for 20 seconds like some weird robot on mind control, like Katy Perry did, or Nicki Minaj did. You cannot hide it anymore. The internet was created by the American military, as far as I know. That's interesting, but I think they did not know the repercussions of this technology. If they would have known it, they would probably not created it, because ultimately it just makes people connect more and be able to reflect better and evolve ultimately. I mean, the internet was created as a military tool just for inner communication in the beginning, so they probably did not have the awareness where it will lead to. But they still try to use the internet in a very bad way. They want to create their own version of the internet, like a hive mind. They want to use it for propaganda reasons, that everyone thinks the same way, or in bubbles for separation. This is their way of using it, and for censorship. But it won't work, I think. Then, of course, there's this problem with the digital money. There's a theory that they want to enslave us with the digital money, that we cannot buy or trade without having an ID. Maybe a chip will go into our forehead or into our hand. And this is exactly what the Bible already talks about in the Revelations, that if you have the sign of the devil, 666, mark of the beast, in your hand or forehead, and you are only able to trade with it and buy and sell if you have it, then this is a sign of the end times, and this is from the Antichrist. This is part of the Antichrist system. So we have to be very careful with that. I would never ever get such a chip, because since childhood, I was aware of such a thing. So never will I be fooled into such a situation. And the vaccine in 2020 might be like a first precursor of this. The vaccine is not the mark of the beast, but still, it's like a very experimental vaccine. It was pushed very quickly to humanity, and I didn't take it, but most people did. And some people just took it for getting an ice cream for free or something as an incentive. It's ridiculous. I know there was one father, he gave his child the vaccine, and the child got an ice cream. And the father was so proudly posting about it on X, or maybe it was still Twitter back then. And guess what? The child got very sick. Maybe he died. I'm not sure anymore. And then the father was posting about that as well. Yeah, so maybe you shouldn't be so stupid and think it's so cool, and then you post about it and you say, oh yeah, we are so smart, we are doing vaccine, we are not stupid, we don't get the illness, you get the illness if you're not vaccinated. None of this was true. Many times the people who got vaccinated even got more of the corona. Because, I don't know, because the vaccine is just not natural and weakened them. You know, I'm not generally against vaccines or something, but if you do such an experimental vaccine that somehow messes with your RNA or whatever, and you do it so quickly it's pushed and people cannot question it, it's obvious that something is off. You know, when society is like, no, it has to be this way, and you cannot question it, we will censor you, you are a threat to humanity or to society if you question the official narrative, then I know something is very, very off. And it's also not democratic at all. So all my alarm bells directly go off, and I will definitely not participate in any such stuff. Whew. Okay, now I was talking for quite long in a row. Cannot believe we are already over 30 minutes into the chat. I was talking non-stop about this. Yeah, but maybe in 2032 we get the golden age, it would be nice. Yay, blind rage activated. Come on, just die. I made him already traumatized, the raptor. Oh, something I want to mention about the game. I recorded it previously, what I want to say now, but it's when the recording didn't work properly. I think it's so interesting that this game has the Spinosaur, but it looks like the raptor, and it moves like the raptor, and it's super small. In reality, Spinosaur was super huge. Nowadays, they imagine it to look more like a crocodile type aquatic entity, but in the past, it was believed to be like a T Rex, for example, just even bigger and having the thing on his back. Yeah, like in Jurassic Park 3 in the movie. Back then, it was believed to be like this, but it was never believed to look like a raptor or fight like a raptor or be super small. So it's funny that in this game it is so small. So it's not very accurate, and I think it's not a real Spinosaur. It's more like a Spinoraptor, like a genetical mixture. Because even when it appears in game, its own area where it's fighting is the genetics laboratory. So I think this totally makes sense. Maybe this is what they had in mind, even though they officially still call him Spinosaur in the game. But Spinoraptor is much more accurate. And I didn't invent this term, by the way. I watched another guy who was talking about this gameplay, and he decided to call it Spinoraptor. And it makes totally sense. I don't know, maybe it really exists in the whole Jurassic Park lore, because they do a lot about this genetically modified dinosaurs nowadays. This is where the whole lore went. Even this very powerful dinosaur from the new Jurassic Park movie is also a mixture of T-Rex and a raptor or something. So he's super smart and everything. It makes sense. Yeah, well, if we are able to reach the golden age, we would maybe go into fifth dimension. Maybe not physically, like we will not be able to shift completely in space and time and teleport. But who knows, with modern technology it's possible. But then it's just based on technology, not because our physical body transformed. Maybe for our physical body to transform, it would take much longer, 2000 more years, who knows. But we would at least by consciousness be in the fifth dimension, where everything is connected, everything is love, everyone cooperates, and there's not so much trouble anymore. There's no more hacking, no more negative people showing up in your space like they did for me. But for this to happen, we all need to raise our consciousness first. Because if everyone has a high consciousness, some stuff like relapse would probably not even happen anymore. Because if everyone is in high consciousness, it automatically pushes you up. You don't get any more negative repercussions. Instead, you get healed by the love of other people, and everything would be positive instead of all the time negative, you know. In such a society, it would be so easy to stay in the fifth dimension, because this is where everyone vibrates. So you would be pulled up automatically. Whereas in the third dimension, everyone is low, so it's a constant struggle to stay high on semen retention. And this is the reason. But it's interesting to me that you can just use your sexual energy, your Kundalini energy also, to vibrate higher. It's not about acting in a moral way or anything. I mean, you have to understand, when people evolve into higher dimensions, they can choose the dark route. I don't want to do that at all. I'm very morally correct person by idea. I have high ideas of being a correct person, more so than other people. But you can theoretically also go the negative path and still get up to the seventh dimension at least. This is the official thing that normally is believed, based on the recordings of Ra, a higher entity that was channeled by, I guess, Dolores Cannon, if I'm not wrong. She says you can polarize negatively, but if you get high enough to the, I don't know, seventh dimension or whatever, it doesn't continue and you have to go back, because if you want to get to the very higher dimensions, you have to become positive. The first dimension is where you have the whole stones, minerals. It is said that everything is consciousness, but those things cannot do a lot. They're just having awareness without logic, without anything. Second dimension, you would have stuff like plants. They're already more living. Then you have in third dimension normal animals, humans. Fourth dimension, you have the astral entities, because the fourth dimension is just in-between dimension. It's like a bridge dimension for the fifth dimension, where you have those highly evolved, always positive creatures. Yeah, so then from there on, every other dimension is just a bridge. Sixth dimension is just a bridge. And if you go to the seventh dimension, it's even more. You feel like a creator. Stuff just happens accordingly to your will all the time. And then when you go higher and higher, it gets more and more abstract. You start to not perceive yourself as an individual being anymore. You start to pick up on collective consciousness. I mean, telepathy and stuff gets more and more real the higher you go in those dimensions. And even while you're in the third dimension, you can always get glimpses of telepathy and stuff like this. Because you have to understand, we are all having energetical spheres around us. You know, we're not just physical, we have energetical spheres. There's the morphogenic field, or how it's called. And so people pick up on that. That's why when you're on a very high Semen streak, sometimes you just enter a room and people turn around and look at you out of nowhere. It's because they feel your energy even before they see you. And then you look at them and there's directly immediate eye contact out of nowhere. Yeah, and this is why stuff like telepathy also works, that you pick up on other people's thoughts, or you think about something and then someone in your surroundings suddenly mentions something that is related. Or you have something going on in your life and people talk in front of you about something that is also related, out of nowhere. This is stuff that I experienced already. I can also sometimes listen very well to other people, even though they're far away. In the bar, for example, it's loud. I shouldn't be able to hear them, but I can hear every word. They think they're talking and I don't hear, but I hear and I understand what they say. It already happened in the past. They were talking about me and I understood, even though they thought I cannot listen because they stand a bit further. So stuff like this, and it gets amplified when you're on high streak, when you have the power. So when you go high on the dimension scale, you get the angel entities, some highly evolved ET entities, and ultimately in 12th dimension you have God. You have the stuff like universal consciousness, consciousness that is not individual anymore, but goes for entire planets and universes, and you go higher and higher, clusters of stars. I don't know if it's very interesting to live in such dimensions, but it's definitely better to be in the fifth dimension than to be in the third dimension. Going to the third dimension for a soul, I think you must be kind of crazy and sick bastard to do that. Maybe we are all sick bastards that we came here. Maybe our main reason is to evolve humanity. I mean, I consider me and some other people, friends of mine, or also people on the internet, that some of us, we are higher than the basic human. This is why we have spiritual understandings, we have other interests, we don't care so much about a 9 to 5, or soccer, or politics, to the same degree like other people. We are not fully immersed in that because we know there's something higher there. We know this life goes away. It's not permanent, so why focus too much on accumulating physical wealth and stuff? We know there's higher things. Morale is more important for us. We're not that immature. Because we know we came here for a reason, and there's probably a life afterwards or something, even though I cannot guarantee that. And because we know this stuff, we're acting on a higher octave. I think people like me maybe came to Earth to help humanity get on a higher level. Because people like me put in the effort, we go on semen retention, we fight the spiritual battle, and then we can share the information and uplift others because we share new information that they otherwise would not have. Let's see. Other people compared to this are very immature. Okay, wow, I did so many. Okay, I still need to do workout in a moment, so I guess it's fine for today.